Greetings and welcome to another episode of His Will for Your Life. I am your host, Sherry Levon Harris, and we have joining us for our Celebrating Mothers Month is Joe Givan. We hope that you would stay tuned. Please comment, like, and share. Uh, get your pad and pen out and take some notes, and we'll be right back.
His Will for Your Life with Cherie Harris. This is your weekly Wednesday 7 p.m. podcast. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Informative, hot topics, testimonies, interviews, along with your weekly guests and more. And now here's your host, Cherie Harris.
Greetings and welcome back. Again, I'm your host, Sherry Levon Harris, and we have joining us this evening is Joe Givan. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for accepting the invitation, and we're so excited to hear what you have to share with us.
And I want to thank you so much. I know, this is a privilege and an honor, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So we're going to give you this opportunity to share with our audience who you are and what you do.
Okay. So again, my name is Joe Givan. I am a wife of almost 8 years. So we'll be celebrating our 8th anniversary in September. I am a mom of 4. Beautiful 19, almost 20-year-old daughter, Trisha. She is amazing. And so I cannot believe I'm an adult mom, like a mom of an adult.
Yeah.
The next one is my 6, almost 7-year-old. He turns 7 next week. Ryan, goes by Ryan. He's a junior, Michael Ryan. And he is awesome, like very much like his daddy. And he's also, he's awesome at Fortnite. So, if you kind of see him online, he he might beat you. He has that confidence to, beat you. But he is, so the next one is my almost 5-year-old Maximus. He is the one that right now is a little more challenging. I think it's because he has a lot of characteristics that I have, and butt heads, and he's in a very rebellious stage. So we're kind of working through that, but he's learning and growing, and I'm learning and growing through the process. And then my last one is my daughter, Mila. She is going to be 15 months this month. So she's, she's a little fun, sassy and all sorts of attitude already. She knows what she wants, and she's going to get it or keep it if
it's something she has, right?
Yes.
That's cute. So 4 children.
4 children.
And a grown-up.
Yes. And I'm also a physical therapist. So I've been practicing for 11 years this year, which, again, hard to believe that I've been out of school that long. But yes. And so, just reflecting, just thinking about all those things and like reflecting on all the things that God has delivered me from. And like got me through is amazing. And I just like, I can't wait to share a little bit more.
So go ahead and share if you're led to share now, and then we ask questions from what you share, or you want me to start off with questions and we flow like that. So it's whatever is comfortable for you.
Yeah, so I'll share.
Okay.
So I was a teenage mom. I had my first, like I mentioned, Trisha, at 16, which, at that point I was extremely driven. I think at the age of 10, I had told myself that, and told my mom that I was going to be a doctor. And I just had, God has placed this like strong will and like big dream mentality in me. And so I just like knew what I wanted to do. And so I even went to a medical high school, medical magnet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, in my mind, I already had my whole life planned out.
Mm-hmm.
I had told myself that, you know, like I wanted to have kids at some point. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be married. I was born to a single mother, and she worked extremely hard to get us through school. And I mean, we had all the needs, not necessarily the wants. And we were okay with that because we saw how hard she was working. She was, pretty much like burning the candle at both ends. And I rarely got to see her. So I was pretty much for the first part of my life was raised by my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And so she, I kind of saw that, and I knew she was tired, and I knew she was just like I said, just burning the candle at both ends. And I knew that I needed to go to college. So, to give my future kids a great life. And so she was also a teenage mom. And so you kind of can see like the generational
Mm-hmm.
curses, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so she would tell me all the time, like, don't walk in my footsteps. I was like raised as a do as I say, not as I do
Mm-hmm.
type of, phrasing. And
Right.
so anyway, when I got pregnant, it was just like I knew I had disappointed her. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was just kind of hard for our relationship. It was, hard for me because I honestly did not want the baby.
Okay.
I was, with her father. We were in a relationship, but it wasn't, I didn't see that as a future
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I became pregnant, I basically, kind of said, I don't want the baby. And so something that I learned with that, and now, all these lessons that I, talk about and like um, have, say that I've learned or am learning is
Mm-hmm.
basically, like these are looking back, I knew God's hand was through it all, and this
Mm-hmm.
is what He was trying to teach me. But basically, God is going to do, what He is planning to do, and nothing will
Yes.
stop it because
Absolutely.
He, um, He just, blessed us through the whole course of my pregnancy. I did not really reveal to my mother that I was sexually active until I was already about 20 weeks along. And so by the time that, we did talk about an abortion, and so we went back, and that's when we found out she's already 20 weeks old or gestational.
Right.
And so, no, I had had no prenatal care. I was at the time playing all sorts of sports, doing high jump, doing volleyball, doing basketball, like
Mm-hmm.
intentionally, like diving for the ball. And just like, kind of because in the back of my head, I kind of knew like maybe I could be pregnant. And so I was just thinking like I would have had a miscarriage already. Like, And so anyway, just like that pregnancy and that child reminds me like God will do whatever it is that he wants to
Pretty
do.
much.
Yeah, like nothing will stop it. Like nothing. And she's perfectly healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I said earlier, she's amazing. She's already doing, adult things and going to college and
Nice.
wants to be an architectural engineer.
Wow.
And so, yeah. Um, anyway, so I ended up going through high school, but before then, I did have another unplanned pregnancy. I did end up terminating that, and it's crazy. I mean, God again has, he's reminded me I'm forgiven. Um, like there's a story. He's not done with that story just yet. However, like the shame and guilt that I at some point like felt is no longer there, because I am learning like more and more women suffer in silence about that.
Yes. Yes.
And so yeah, I just don't like, I want to live my life with nothing hidden, because really and truly, I mean, sin can keep us in bondage if it is
Mm-hmm.
hidden. And so, nothing that I'm proud of, but I know God is like, writing that story. And
Wow.
so anyway, and again, looking back, it's like, I know he would have brought me through if I had two children, by the time I graduated high school, or, shortly after. And I know he would have done great things, because I'm that determined person. And I've always, even though I wasn't very close at that time to God, like I've always known there's something big for me. And so like, if there's anybody out there, like really listening, and like, I want to do encourage you, like, if you have a dream in your heart, do not let it go, and just hold on to God, and keep keep believing and keep trusting that he is writing that story.
Mm. That's
But
powerful.
so anyway, God helped me get through high school, helped me get through college, got a 4-year bachelor degree. And then I just kind of knew, like, I wanted to be a physical therapist. After I figured out doctor school, going to med school was going to be way too much. And even before I had my daughter, like, I had changed my mind to being a nurse, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, there's no way I want to be, 32. I was like doing the math and calculating the years. Like, I don't want to be 32 and not have a boyfriend yet, because I know med school is, like, I mean, again, all of these things, like, just like looking back, I have to laugh at myself, because I already had everything planned.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but yeah, so anyway, it was just, that realization of it's his will, not mine. And it's a lesson that I keep learning over and over again. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, I met my husband in 2006. And we just basically were friends. I mean, I met him through a friend, and but he kind of stuck around, and we would check in on each other, even though we had nothing, formal. And in 2012, I decided, okay, maybe give him a try. Which,
Mm-hmm.
if you ask him, he has a totally different like story. But he thinks that I was the one, pursuing him, and so again, funny, but that my relationship with my husband has actually taught me, like, this is why people have so many issues, because there's always going to be two sides of the story. There's always
Yes.
two perspectives,
Great size.
and we were both there, but
Mhm.
saw it differently. So
Wow.
just very funny. And so yeah, so we got married in 2015. Had our first one. I had a miscarriage right before I had
Mm.
Michael Ryan. And so again, like, I mean, that was pretty hard, because at that point I had got, and again, I hadn't been like delivered from, the abortion. And so I ended up telling him, I remember like being in the hospital, because they didn't know if it was going to be, having to be medically,
Mm-hmm.
um, whatever it is, the IND or something like that. But so we didn't know if I was going to have some medical treatment for it. But I remember telling him, like, I know this is my fault. And I know it's because, I had an abortion, you know, a year and a half or so after Trisha was born. And so I was like, just me being able to tell him and confide in him, that just gave me a little bit of freedom. So that's why I know, like, sin just keeps you in bondage, like keeps you heavy. And so he just, we were just basically, kind of going through that in our marriage. And just like, I, again, even at that point, I had just become more of faith, but not as diligent as I am now. And so even then, like, God kind of showed me a lot of comfort through all that. Used my husband, of course, to show me a lot of comfort. Um, and so then we had our baby, and I mean, the lesson there basically was how important it is, what you put on your body, what you consume, um,
Right.
because he was born with hypospadias.
Okay.
And I like lived off of, they were like green tea lattes with soy milk. And I'm not, claiming that that's what it was, but just like in doing some research, and who knows? And I keep saying, God will tell me when I'm in heaven, and by the time I get up there, I'm probably not even going to care. So, like, yeah, that just like taught me so many things about, yeah, like our bodies, and how important it is, like I said, what goes on our skin and in our bodies. And then a couple of years later, or less than 2 years later, I got pregnant with my 4-year-old. And I was, that journey taught me the fact that it's easy for me to keep looking ahead and not enjoy the journey. I was, even at like 12 weeks, I was already complaining because I felt pain. I felt, my sciatic nerve has always been an issue with my pregnancies. And so at 12 weeks, I keep saying that little boy was already like digging in there. And so, yeah, but I was just in a fog, the whole pregnancy. My husband had a lot of like dreams and, just visions of what he wanted to do as an entrepreneur. And I was basically kind of like, in a way, saying, like, just tell me where to show up, tell me where to sign, I'll sign it. But I wasn't really being intentional with my life at that point. And so what the crazy thing about it is, like, a few months after I had him, and just I felt like I was like out of my fog, my pregnancy fog. I realized like how passive I was living my life.
Wow.
So God, kind of like graciously walked me through, okay, like, now you have to take control. Like, now you have to take responsibility of your own decisions. Like, now you can't blame it on your husband for, making these decisions. Like, it's on you. And so through that, like, yes, I've been able to grow as I think as a wife, and as, a mom, and just being able to show that, for my kids.
Right. So let's go back a little bit and tell me, what was one of your biggest fears before becoming a mother?
I think just, well, because I was, I got pregnant so early on, it was just repeating the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Um, repeating I didn't want my daughter to become a teenage mom, and not because, I don't think I learned so much. I have, and I know, again, God is going to do something beautiful out of that. But it was the fact that I repeated what my mom did. And so now, the natural progression in my mind was my daughter was going to end up being a teenage mom. And so that was one of my biggest fears. And right now, my biggest fear, which, again, God is like, dealing with me on this. But right now, my biggest fear is just messing them up, which, oh, so sorry. Yeah, just, doing something. And, I keep having to remind myself I'm not that powerful. God is he's already working in their lives. And my job as a mother is guiding them to, the best life that they can have, and, that God wants for them.
Right. What has been the most challenging aspect of motherhood for you so far?
I think just not being able to, I always feel like there's something, like there's never settling. Like I always like keep wanting, or keep telling myself, like, I will feel better when, they go through this one phase, or and like the realization that it we never will have arrived. And so there's always, it's kind of like that saying, like, we're either in a storm, coming out of a storm, or about to go into one.
Right.
So so I just need to keep reminding myself, I'm getting stronger through this. But yeah, and just like I mentioned earlier, with my 4-year-old, we just have that challenging, rebellious stage right now. So each one of them has, kind of shown me so much through their own little personalities. And
yeah. How has motherhood changed you?
it has given me a bigger heart, more compassion. I take all my relationships, and not just, my kiddos' relationships, but, every one of my relationships, I had to adopt the mindset that they're here to grow me.
Mm.
And if I, if I keep that mentality, and I keep, that in the forefront, then it's okay for me to just have a relationship for a season. It's okay, to have, like, just conflict in that relationship, because at the end of the day, it's growing me. But with my kids, like I said, each one of them has their own little personality, and that's what I love. Like, I see them, and it's like, God, you just like did amazing. Like, I don't know, just the complexity that we each, how each one of us was built. And as a physical therapist, it's kind of like amazing how our bodies work, like just to know how our bodies work. And the more and more that, I learn about God, I know him. In turn, it's growing me, and, kind of teaching me how he created me. And then I'm able to kind of see my little ones and see, okay, like, yeah. So I'm currently trying to figure out, how can I empower them? Like, how can I keep, kind of like see their strengths, and just like keep building them up. Because I mean, all of us, I think, as human beings, need that for sure. But, if I can do it in my small little circle, later on, hopefully God will use me for other things, or use them.
True. What have you learned about yourself since becoming a mom?
I'm going to say the bad things, and then
Okay.
So I can be very impatient.
Okay.
Very short fused. I tend to raise my voice a lot. And, I didn't realize how much I stuff so much. And then I have those little outbursts, and then I feel horrible because then it's like this
Uh,
bad cycle of, stuffing it in. Then the littlest thing will set me off. And then, they're feeling, some sort of way. But, God is just, again, like being aware is the first thing that, I encourage everybody to do, just being aware of those behaviors. And something, honestly, that, it has been put on my heart as a mom is that the true generational wealth is actually healing your past hurts, healing your wounds. Um, because the way that we act is a lot of times because of, how we were raised, or just wounds that we haven't gone back and healed. And so through this process, like right now, I'm really going hard at healing, like healing my hurts so that I don't bleed onto my kiddos. And I had to be very vulnerable and honest with them the other day. And I said, whenever I do raise my voice, it's not something that you guys necessarily did, or it's not because of who they are. It's something to do, mommy is just sad, or mommy's overwhelmed, or mommy is, and just like having that vulnerability in front of them, and just,
mhm,
it reminds them, oh, mommy is a human being. Like,
mhm.
mommy's not perfect. Like I
Right.
try to be, but I will never be perfect.
Right. How do you balance your responsibilities as a mother with the aspects of life?
I keep kind of like my priorities straight. And it's not that they don't go out of whack every once in a while. I do try to reassess, and but God first, family second, business slash career last. And that has worked out pretty well for me. It wasn't like this from the very beginning. And, my friends can tell you, like, because I'm open about how burnt out I was in my career. And, but when I switched to just keeping God first and foremost, and then my family comes second, and, everything else. And I'm not there yet. I'm still kind of working on it.
Mhm.
But that's what I keep in my mind. Just, my time with God is, should be non-negotiable. And,
Mm.
sometimes
Awesome.
I do let it, you know,
What
go by.
advice would you give to uh, new moms, moms who are just learning, even though they have had their child for some time? Because children do not come with a handbook. So, so what would you share with them?
Don't take it so seriously.
Mhm.
Learn to first and foremost, I think what really helped me was learning my identity in Christ,
Mm.
and just allowing myself to be loved by
Mm.
him.
Mm.
Because, we're all kind of just learning. And really and truly, like, the other thing too that I would tell you is make sure you don't, listen to advice, but just like, um, yeah, I sometimes will use this with my patients, like when they go to multiple doctors, like, yes, go and listen to what they have, but you know what, your vibe, like your gut feeling is going to tell you, if they really are in it for you or not.
Mhm.
And same thing with, all of us mamas have, little 2 cents here and there to give you. And I'm guilty of it too. I try to like fix a problem for somebody. And I think it's just like everything that I'm, involved in. But yeah, like just listen with an open heart. But you, as the baby's mom, like, you know best. And yes, you can like read all the books and you can like, like learn and gain the knowledge, but at the end of the day, like it's kind of you're with that baby and you have to think on your feet, and none of us are by the book, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so don't take yourself, so like seriously. Give yourself some grace.
Mm-hmm.
Know your limits, and that's another thing too that I really want to encourage. I mean, all of us, but
Mm-hmm.
um, more so moms, is we just don't embrace our limits, and it's okay. I mean, we are all human beings,
Right.
and God gave us limits for a reason, because we want to be able to rely on Him once we reach that limit.
Right. Right. What is one of your favorite memories um, or moments as a mother?
Yeah, I have a lot, but I think just being able to see, again, just like with my story, and the ages of my kiddos and all that. Um, I'm super proud of my oldest,
Mm-hmm.
and she gives me so much hope for my other three, because during the time that I was like raising her, I mean, again, I was just on survival mode like the whole time. God placed so many people in my life, thankfully, who helped me out financially, emotionally, mentally. But just seeing her,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I mean, I know it's God. Like I know it was God who brought us through that, and but each one of them will surprise me with something that like I wasn't even expecting.
Right. Right.
And I'll share this story because I like just because I think it would be appropriate for this question. But
Okay.
the other night I was just, I mean, it was like 2 in the morning. I was feeling very kind of lonely, like,
Mm-hmm.
and just very, I don't know, like my husband was traveling last week. So it might have been because of that. I don't know, but it was just, I felt pretty lonely, like in my bed. And like I mentioned, like my 4-year-old is right now in a stage that, just like makes me want to pull my hair out. But all of a sudden I'm like praying, because I'm like, well, God, geez, like I only have 2 hours to wake
Mm-hmm.
up and go work out. And I'm like, can you please like help me just have 2 hours of quality sleep? And
Mm-hmm.
so I heard footsteps upstairs,
Mm-hmm.
and I, quickly rolled my eyes, because I'm like, Max is awake. Like, and he's the one who always wakes up, in the middle of the night, finds us in our bed or wherever we're at. And so I'm like, oh gosh. And so he laid down. I was able to like cuddle him, and oh my gosh, like the peace that I felt at that moment. And then it was just like that reminder, like he is so sweet, like his spirit is so sweet. It's just like we're trying to figure out, like he just likes to test boundaries.
Right.
Like, when I hold on to those little stories, like,
Mm-hmm.
or the little signs, the God winks,
Right.
it just makes me more in awe of how,
Wow.
God, just hears me, and, hears my prayers. And
Mm-hmm.
so anyway, it was very, sweet and very recent. So it's in my heart right now.
How do you ensure that you take good care of yourself while caring for your children and other responsibilities that you have as a mom?
Yeah. So I also have a model for that. If my cup is not filled, I can't pour into somebody else. And that somebody else in this case is my kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
So I do my best, like I mentioned earlier, spend as much time with God. And, that time with God doesn't have to be huge. I try to tell early, like baby Christians, or, the people that have
Mhm.
just come to faith, that it doesn't have to be a long time. Like sometimes just 15 seconds or,
Mhm.
30 seconds of your time. And then the crazy thing about God is he will make you want more of him. The more you spend time with him, the more you want to spend time. And so you just find a way. I try my best to pray every time I'm in the car, which I used to be a home health therapist, and that journey taught me that, like, it's okay to pray while I'm in the car.
Mhm.
I try to pray like when I'm doing dishes or like the housework that I want to be doing. Just and a lot of it is just kind of me complaining,
Mhm.
me kind of saying like I don't want to be doing this, God. But
Right.
again, and another thing with that was this afternoon when I was doing dishes, and I just listening. I was listening to worship music, and so
Mhm.
I was just kind of talking, and then
Mhm.
it just like dawned on me that you know today is like May 10th, because honestly I was like pretty anxious about hopping on here, and I don't know, I just get myself worked up about little things like
Mhm.
that. It's not a little thing, but it's like for me,
Right.
like I just don't want to sound like a like an
Mhm.
idiot, or
Mhm.
but he reminded me like today is May 10th, which is Mexican Mother's Day. So
Really?
yes, Feliz Dia de las Madres. And so then he was like, calm down, because you're doing it, you're trying to make it about you. And
Right.
like, you're right. I'm sorry. And like all of a sudden this like just overwhelming sense of, I don't know, just like I guess relief. And then I started like crying. So I'm like there, washing dishes, crying, because I'm like, you're right, God. I'm so sorry. And I want to, yes, make sure that you are forefront. Like not me, but you.
Mm.
So anyway, that
Well,
was that's one thing. Another thing that I try to do a lot of is self-care. And
mhm.
again, self-care, doesn't have to be big. It can be just a little, whatever you love to do, whatever it is that kind of fills your cup, whether it's like watching a movie or if you I my love language is acts of service.
Mhm.
So pedicures, manicures, all the things like if you need products to, I mean, whatever it is that fills your cup, that's kind of what I say self-care is it's just taking care of yourself. If
Mhm.
you need a little glass of wine,
Mhm.
drink it, and just take a bubble bath, whatever it is. And then I do my best to exercise, which as a physical therapist it shouldn't be that big of a deal because I know better. But
Mhm.
there for many years I told myself like I don't have any time to go.
Wow.
And you will make time for what's important to you. And after this last pregnancy, I just realized my body is so much weaker than I want it to be. And so, in order for me to be able to carry out God's will, I'm going
Mhm.
to have to take care of my body. Like, I'm going to have to go and work out
Mhm.
and, get up at 5:30 in the morning if I have to. And so, some weeks He gives me a lot more grace for that than, other weeks. But I do know that exercise will help your body. And again, these counterintuitive things that God has used,
Mhm.
when some of the excuses that we might place is, well, I just don't have the energy, and it's because you don't work out that you don't have the energy. And
Right.
working out doesn't mean lifting heavy weights. You can go walk somewhere and just be basking in God's presence.
Mhm.
um, there's so many other things you can do. Is it Zumba? Yeah. But there are so many ways that you can incorporate that you can incorporate exercise. And I will say, just a little tidbit, as I see patients now, like more and more people are not liking to do exercise, which is fine. And that was me for the longest time. But we want to, again, find the interest, like what's interesting to you, and what will keep you consistent with it.
Mm, mm,
And then finally, like just eating as best as you can. So eating as clean as you can, just, going back to what I said earlier, just learning what fuels your body the best. The foods that don't serve your body,
mhm.
get rid of them. It's easier said than done, but it will bless you so much.
Wow, awesome. What do you hope to instill in each of your children?
I want them to ultimately live by, what Jesus says for us to live by, loving God, loving humans,
Mhm,
like other people.
mhm,
And I think we if I really can get that in them, to love God first, and then love other people, of course, loving themselves. I I think, they'll go very far, because then everything, what I have found in my life is everything just like stems from there. If
mhm,
I love God and I want to please him,
mhm,
then I have to love, myself,
mhm,
which I didn't love myself in the very beginning. And that's been another journey within itself. But, then I'm able to pour into people, and be able to do everything that I do, my businesses, the groups that I want to, the community that I want to build. It's because I want, people to feel loved.
mm. How has being a mother impacted your relationship with your mom or any mother figures in your life?
So I heard this once, that hurt people.
Mhm,
So it it really has helped me see, again, from, looking back, and how, the behaviors and the things, the way that I was raised. My mom was doing her best at that time. And, you know, again, this is why I'm so passionate about really healing ourselves from wounds,
yes, yes.
because if I'm not, kind of healing those wounds, then I'm going to bleed on others. And,
Mhm,
bleeding on others can actually, hurt their self confidence. And,
mm,
and so that was a big lesson for me. But not only that, like also kind of, having more grace. And, that's why I said about, new moms, like making sure that they have grace early on, because we don't all have it together. Like um, we need to rely on God all the time. And it's given me so much, like love and grace and understanding.
mhm,
Because I mean, there are a lot of things that I do now. Like I mentioned earlier, I raise my boys, and so that's the thing that I once told myself, I'm never going to do that. And
yes.
so yeah, just realizing, being aware that, okay,
Mhm,
that's something that I really need to change, because it doesn't serve my kids.
right.
Um, yeah.
What are some of the tips or nuggets, if you will, that you can share with mothers? Um, Mothers who just raise children, whether they've given birth, they've adopted, or they're just a mother figure. What would you tell them? What are some tips?
So I will tell you, first and foremost, and this really blessed me. I had a friend who reminded me of this, a few months ago, but you are the perfect mom for that kid.
Mm,
Whatever it is, whatever journey you're on, adoption or, You're the perfect person for that kid, and God has already equipped you. God loves you unconditionally, and knows you. I mean, he already knows what you're gonna do, and so many of us we feel shame or guilt for or acting a certain way. And yes, again, don't I'm not saying all this to allow the bad behavior, but it's more of a God sees you and gives you grace, and at the end of the day, he knows your heart. And so if your heart is truly for the betterment of your children, he's gonna equip you, like give you more resources. He's gonna place the right people. He's gonna place you in the right village. And so yeah, like just give you the best connections. So just know you already have everything that it takes to raise a kid.
Wow.
And also wanting to just make sure that first and foremost you take care of yourself, and you kind of in a way like doing you first, as far as like feeling like what I mentioned earlier, filling your cup, because nobody's gonna take care of you. Nobody is gonna come and save you, which I think I had that mentality at some point. Like I was waiting on my husband to make me feel a certain way, or I was waiting on my kids to make me feel a certain way. And so I think it goes back to finding your identity in Christ. But really and truly, take care of yourself, and the body that God has given you, the brain that God has given you, and just embracing your strengths, like knowing what you love, like what you're good at, what's naturally easy for you. Just embracing that too, because the more and more you do in that, and like I mentioned earlier, I don't want my kids to think that I'm trying to be perfect or anything, but just knowing my husband's a cook, I'm not. If you're gonna ask me to like make you something, it's probably not gonna happen. But yeah, like we all are amazing in our own ways, moms and women, really. Like even before you have kids, if you decide to have kids at one point, learning these things will help you, and just free you from so much like bondage that the enemy tries to keep us in. He is always trying to lie to you and tell you that you're not worthy, or you're not capable of doing it. And sometimes when he tells me I'm not capable, I'm like, well, I'm glad, because God is. And so and just always realizing that God is going to fill in the gaps. I don't have to have it all. I don't have to have all the answers, but God does. And if I had to learn that as a single mom, that God is kind of like the second parent, but at the same time, he is the parent. And so, yeah, just knowing that we have an amazing Heavenly Father that, will fill in the gaps and will come in and, will fix sometimes the things that you end up, breaking, so to speak. Like he will come in and fix it. Or like in my story, there's just redemption. There's so much redemption. And so keep those things in mind, that we're not powerful enough to mess up God's plan for anybody, nor ourselves.
Well, I have to write that down. We are not powerful enough to mess up God's plan.
God's plan. And I can't take the credit. I've seen it somewhere else, but I thought it was super powerful.
Well, that is awesome. That is awesome. And that's so true. That's so true. Whew. That's interesting. That's deep. Thank you for that. That's a nugget I'm going to keep for myself. as a reminder of who he is.
Yeah.
So we know that you are a physical therapist as we come to a close, and we know that you have some other things going on. So we're going to give you this opportunity to share your groups, share your other businesses, and allow our audience to follow you.
Awesome. Well, I actually right now I'm working with the Grandview School District with a special in the special education program. So that's kind of where like God just is so amazing that he's taught me so many lessons about, you know, kids in general, and I'm super grateful. But I do have a physical therapy practice in Olathe, Kansas. I am certified in lymphedema, and I do manual lymphatic massages, and so just lymphatic drainage, and our lymphatic system is truly amazing. And the more that I know about it, like the more I get geeked out at, again, God, because that was another God thing. Like I wasn't even going in for the certification. It was really, I wanted to please my boss at the time, and it's blessed me so much more than I can, even say. But I see patients, like I said, on the side, and I am looking forward to, growing my practice. So I'm not going to be at the school district forever, but, God is really calling me to be more, the hands and feet of him in that area. I also am an independent consultant with Arbonne International. So it is a health and wellness company. I've been with them for 7 years. And I always say, like, my Arbonne journey and my faith journey have been very parallel. And, God, I know God would have used anything and can use anything and everything to basically like pull you back to him. But like my Arbonne journey and that business journey has actually been what has made me just like be more diligent in my relationship with God. And so, I see this awesome like parallel, and I'm not where, I want to be in that, but, I know God has promised me, great things. And like now I'm seeing how everything is just like coming together. As far as like really what I stand for is I want to help women more specifically who have neglected their health to finally prioritize their health. And so I want to make sure that, I'm living that life because I did neglect my health at some point, for many years. And I want to be that role model. And he's using some of the platforms that I'm currently, in. And also, we have a great group coming up. It's going to be the first group, but I'm calling it Basins and Bible. Again, I can't take the credit because God, gave me that idea, but I'm calling it Basins and Bibles because I want it to be a group of women, mamas, who are, who just, want to talk about Jesus. And it's very informal. But at the same time, you'll be soaking your feet and getting a little bit of, some pampering. I have a great friend helping me who is studying to become a massage therapist. So, I'm just slowly trying to build that, community of servant-hearted leaders who want to, help me in a bigger mission. And like I said, the mission is basically helping women who have neglected their health finally start prioritizing themselves. And yeah, so I mean that group hopefully is like the plan as of right now is having it twice a month in different locations so that we can have different, different girls coming if they can't make it to one. But yeah, everything else is kind of still in the works. Like, God has given me an amazing vision and, for a nonprofit. And so
Nice.
I'm basically on God's timing right now. Like I keep telling myself God's timing, because I'm really bad at trying to make things happen right away. And then I get overwhelmed and I end up like just letting everything go because it's, it's too overwhelming. But if I let, God kind of take the step and the lead in that, and I'm just following, and I keep, praying that I'm obedient to those steps, because it's easy for me to just say, oh, I don't have the energy, God. I don't have the time. I don't have, and
Right.
that's making it happen. So,
Right. I hear your little one. He seems like he wants to be a part of the show. That's the part of being a mom.
Yes.
And celebrating. If you want to let him in, you can let him in.
No, I think they actually just got back from baseball. So.
Oh, okay. But thank you so much. I have enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you for sharing. We're going to make sure we put this information in the feed so that when others come back to watch the replay, or those who have watched it will be able to see your information and to follow you. You are in Missouri, correct?
I am in Kansas City, Missouri. Yes.
Okay. And so they should be able to. Do you do anything virtually, or are you licensed to be able to do things?
Well, basically telehealth is an option, but it would have to be either in Missouri or Kansas. So Kansas residents and Missouri, since I have licenses in both. But
okay, good.
But yeah,
So telehealth is an option, which is great. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much, and we hope that you will come back and join us again sometime.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, and I hope something that I said blessed.
Oh, you blessed us. Yes, you have. Are there any takeaways that you would like to leave with us before we leave the show?
Basically, just making sure that and I know it's easier said than done, and I'm learning this myself, enjoy the journey. Just enjoy every single, and you hear it kind of as a cliche a lot, like, oh, it's just a phase, just enjoy it. But really and truly, if you take a step back when you're in that storm, or if you're, when you're in that hard thing that you're dealing with, if you take a step back and just basically surrender it to God, He will make a way for anything. And just, enjoying that journey you're on, and knowing that we're growing ourselves to our glorified bodies, essentially. So kind of having that the eternity perspective, I think also helps some of us.
Right.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you all for watching the show tonight. Next week we have Pastor Troy Moore, who will continue on in celebrating mothers, and his topic is The Legacy Continues. And so he will be joining us next week for to continue in this podcast on celebrating mothers. Thank you so much. Remember, it's okay not to be okay as long as we don't stay in that place. Thank you again for joining us. Please share this podcast with someone that it will be a blessing to. Again, Joe, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too. Bye. Good night, everyone.
Please join us again next week for another riveting, informative segment of His Will for Your Life podcast with Cherie and her special guest,